I took a decidedly different approach than everybody else who has presented so far, but part of this is because I work in local government, I work at the Mid-America Regional Council, I work in policy and planning all the time, but really my background is science. I love science, and I wasn't actually going to talk about this until Jace tweeted something like, oh, Amanda Graor is going to drop a science on us on Saturday, so here I am dropping a science. So, my background is meteorology, and this is going to be about weather and the everyday things that happen in the weather that impact everybody. So the easy things here are sunshine, right? Okay, so sunshine and you. What impact does going out in the sunshine have on a person? Generally, the studies show that it increases positive thinking. I think this is a pretty easy one. I threw a softball out there for the first one because it's pretty easy to tell when you go outside and it's sunny, you feel better, and when you go outside and it's cloudy, your mood kind of changes, and you feel that change in the weather. So there are obvious impacts with sunshine and you. So what happens with humidity and you? This is a little less obvious. So there's a lot of things that go on with weather. There is cloud cover, there's humidity, there's wind speed, there's whether it's dark outside. I mean, that's not really weather, it's more space science, but my degree is actually atmospheric, oceanic, and space science, so I am qualified to talk about it. The humidity part actually, and this was really fascinating to me, the humidity actually increases sleepiness. So even if it's sunny outside, those two things are fighting with each other. And when it's a high humidity level, one of the quotes from one of the articles I was reading said, lack of vigor, elation, and affection. So the sunlight and the humidity are actually sort of fighting with each other on those hot and sunny days. So if it's humid outside and you're feeling like you just want to take a nap, don't feel bad. A lot of other people are feeling that way too. Okay, so weather doesn't only impact people, it impacts things too. So I was getting my coffee the other day, pretty addicted to lattes, and I was talking to one of my favorite baristas at Key Coffee down in the River Market. So what happens with humidity and coffee beans? Humidity actually causes coffee beans to swell, which means they have to be ground more coarse when they're being put through an espresso maker, because if they are not, the grounds compact too much and actually resist being brewed. So if you have a good barista, ask them the next time you go in on a humid day, they should be grinding the beans more coarse to make up for the fact that it's humid outside. Great. Okay, so a lot of people in the room are into arts. We've heard some great presentations from artists this morning. What about humidity, heat, and a piano? There's a lot of weather impacts. I play clarinet, actually concerts tonight, Unity Temple, 7:30, if you're looking for something free to do. But my wood clarinet is impacted by the heat and the humidity. But what about a piano? A piano is a pretty common instrument. It actually, musicians refer to this as sluggishness. In a piano, the hinges that hold the hammers that actually hit the string swell during humidity. So it actually takes longer for that hammer to come around and hit the string. So it's actually playing slower in high humidity. So it has an actual impact during high humidity. So temperature and your golf game. There's a lot of excuses that can be gleaned from the information that I'm about to tell you, so listen closely, because if you take anything from this, it may be excuses about your golf game. So the temperature, obviously, it's harder to play when it's hot and humid outside. You know the impacts it has on you, but what about the equipment that you're actually using? Warm balls travel farther. So, right, yeah, I hear you, Sean. The materials that a golf ball is made out of, the rubber and the other composite materials inside, actually act differently when they're warm versus when they're cold. Some people actually use ball warmers to keep their balls warm while they're playing golf. So, just a thought. Also, cold air is thick air. So balls actually do not travel as far when it's cold outside. So if you want all the excuses in the world, go play golf when it's cold, and you have excuses for why your ball doesn't travel as far, and if you don't have a ball warmer, I just don't buy those gimmicky things for sports. I'm a hardcore sports person. So, what about atmospheric pressure and boiling water? So my grandparents used to go to the mountains every summer. They lived in Florida and had to escape Florida during the summer. Why they lived there in the first place, I don't know. But they had to escape to the mountains during the summer. So the atmospheric pressure has an impact on boiling water. We have the ideal gas equation, like I said, science background, totally geeking out right now. But there's a direct correlation between the pressure of the air and the temperature it takes to boil water. So in Denver, you have the Mile High City. The accepted boiling point for water is 100 degrees Celsius, or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. The boiling point in Denver is actually 95 degrees Celsius because the atmospheric pressure is lower. It's higher in the mountains. Okay, humidity in your electronics. I figured this would be a very sensitive topic for just about everybody in this room, judging by the amount of electronics that are here, let alone what you probably have at home. So, humidity in your electronics, if it's this actually goes in two directions. You can have particularly high humidity or particularly low humidity. In particularly high humidity conditions, you can actually get condensation on your electronics. So even though it's just plastic and metal and you wouldn't think it would have an impact, water can actually condense on your electronics. And as most of you in this room should know, water and electronics do not generally mix very well. So, but in particularly low humidity, you get a buildup of static charge. And so you can have shorts and that kind of thing if the air is too dry. So this explains why server rooms and those kinds of things are kept both temperature and humidity controlled, because it's not just the temperature, it's also the humidity that has an impact on your electronics. Finally, temperature and your tire pressure. So this is something that everybody deals with, whether we are bike sharing or driving or anything that has tires. As I mentioned before in the golf slide, cold air is thick air, but cold air is also compact air. So when it's warm outside, the air is expanding. It's less dense, but it's expanding. And so it's air that's in your tires. And so your tires are expanding. If it's cold outside, the air is more dense. You have the same amount of air in your tire, but it's cold. So it's condensing. So your tires actually lose more air pressure in the winter due to condensing air than anything else. So fill up your tires in the winter. That's sort of an air quality message as well. I am the air quality program manager at Mark, so I have a vested interest in you keeping your tires properly inflated. So basically that was a 4-minute and 40-second, about to be 5-minute long presentation of dropping a science on all of you today. And I'm going to finish, one more slide, chill out. No, I timed these. Well, that's your fault then. So my last slide, which is apparently not going to come up, which was kind of the most awesome slide in this, was basically I love my science background, and part of what I do yes, dropped a science, there we go. Part of why I do what I do is because I am so inspired by everyone, but particularly the women that have come before me. And so I have done Big Brothers Big Sisters and Kauffman Scholars, and making sure to be partnered with young women who can understand that they can have a science background and still do other things. So part of what keeps me going is the inspiration of all the women that came before me, and the women that presented before me are great examples of that. And I just encourage everyone to, the hackathon is a great example. So that's what keeps me going, and boom, I dropped a science.